Like, I don't think financial independence has changed. I think everyone wants that, especially because everyone has access to it now. Because in the past, women couldn't even like open their own credit card. Everyone wants money, because at the end of the day, I don't care about money, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to work because I need money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like money's important. We all realize that money's important, whether we like it or not. And so I think that hasn't changed.
Ever felt those awkward vibes when religion and money come up? You're not alone. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, the podcast where we tackle the crossroads of faith and finance. I'm Cook, an accredited financial counselor and the CEO and founder of Crusaders for Change, LLC. Join us on our journey as we discuss topics like tithing, saving, and conquering debt through religious perspectives. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money. Again, season 4. Thank you for joining us on this ride, this amazing podcast that God gave into our hearts and minds and spirits. But today we are talking about guiding children in faith and finances, a Generation X and Generation Z conversation. I will be introducing our amazing guest momentarily, but how do different generations actually think about God and money? I know I have this conversation a lot with people because I am the Generation Xer. If you didn't know, I'm not the Zer on this call or this episode. But let's have a real unfiltered conversation about faith, financial freedom, and doing things differently while still respecting the wisdom passed down to us. So our main scripture for today comes from Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he or she should go, and he or she is old, he or she will not depart from it. I know a lot of us heard that scripture, but it's all important whether you serve a God or not, you're religious or not, to train up your child, because guess what? They're going to follow that way. So our special guest for today is none other than Alana Cook. I gave her whole government name. Lord forgive me. Hopefully she's not mad at me about that. But this is my daughter, my pride and joy, my favorite girl in the whole wide world. She is 24, going on 25. She is a recent grad in the last 2 years from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She majored in environmental science and policy. I'm sure I messed that up. She'll tell you more. And minored in music. She has played the flute for most of her life. She's amazing all the way around. And me and my husband, who was on our last episode, Nate Cook, are just so proud of this child, of this adult woman. So welcome, Alana Cook.
Hi.
How you doing, baby?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Okay.
You're like, okay. How'd I do with your introduction?
I guess it was okay. I mean,
you want to explain any more and like give what degree you actually got from University of Maryland?
You were right. It is environmental science and policy. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a loose description of the degree. So
yeah. And what are you trying to do with that?
I'm trying to work I don't know. I want to do poverty alleviation for urban communities.
Yes. Yeah, which is very noble of you. And we need that. So a lot of the environmental factors affect everybody, but it seems to be even more increased in those low income, underserved populations.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm super proud of you and thank you for joining us.
See, let the wisdom inherit. Let's hit the rapid fire questions. Say what's on your spirit. Take your seat. Let the wisdom inherit. Let's hit the rapid fire questions. Say what's on your spirit.
So as you know, or those that are listening, or maybe those new to our show, this podcast, we introduced in the last few episodes our quick fire questions, where in 3 to 5 minutes, we just quickly fire some questions at our guests and see what comes up. And we're not going to get stuck on it, but here we go. You ready?
Sure.
All right. What's a money lesson your parents taught you that actually stuck?
Money is a tool. That's what Daddy says.
Yeah, he does.
And it's not just I guess it's not the main thing. And you use it to get to the things you want it to get to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to teach that a lot when our clients do Crusaders for Change. A lot of people, they let it influence their life in ways that is crazy. But of course, that's what they've seen. But yeah, it just does a lot of damage, or it can do good, but a lot of times it's damage. That's why they come see us by that time. But just teaching them that it's a tool to help them get to where they want to be in life. But there's obviously more to life than just money, right?
Mhm, yes,
All right. So, what's something you chosen to do your way when it comes to faith and finances?
that's a good question. I don't really pray for money exactly when I
Mm-hmm.
do pray, but I'll pray for like an opportunity. I
Mm,
think that makes more sense.
yeah.
Yeah. And with finances, it's really just a vibe.
Mm,
That's really it. When I didn't have a job, I feel like I was really worried about spending money all the time. But now I know money, it'll come back. So it doesn't go
mm,
away. So it's not bad to spend money on things that you like.
yeah. That's good. Yeah, I know for a while there you were like, "Oh, I don't wanna spend money," and I know sometimes we still feel that way, and you still feel that way, but you get to learn that you deserve to treat yourself, right? As long as you're doing certain things like saving, paying your bills on time, putting money away for, like I said, savings, but also just paying, for your necessities, then you should be able to treat yourself, and you should put that in your budget. So, all right, last question. What does generosity look like to you?
And it's just being selfless, isn't it? I know I'm an only child and I know a lot of only children don't know how to share and stuff, but I feel like I'm the type of person who would give like the clothes off of my back for someone who wants something. Like I've always shared food or I try my best to help other people because it's not just about me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, look at we might have done something right with you or your daddy and I, huh? I love that. All right. Well, thank you for participating. That's probably the quickest fire question that we ever had segment. But I'll add to that before we wrap up that generosity, exactly like you said, looks like to me is helping others more than helping myself. Sometimes I help people more than I should, especially when it comes to family and friends. But just being generous and kind and loving and just, like you said, if you have to, I'll give you my coat because you need it because I'll figure out how to get another one later. So great job, Alana. All right, let's move into our main discussions. Parenting and faith formation. How do your parents show what faith and money look like growing up, but also giving you the space to figure out your own beliefs? I know we had you in church here and there off and on. We weren't like that super religious family. But I know throughout your course of growing up, the first 18 years from primary years of having you grow up teaching you that we serve a certain God, but also that I serve a certain God, but I want you to learn to find your way. How did that faith and money look like growing up?
I don't really remember faith and money being in like the same conversation ever, except when it's like about tithing. But tithing to me just seemed like giving money to the church. There was stuff we did with the church, like when we did like that Toys for Tots thing or
Yeah,
whatever during, yeah, but they've always been separate conversations.
Daddy and I have kept them pretty separate. So yeah, so what about how Generation Z sees giving, saving, and wealth? Let's get into that deeper. Like, tell me more about you, what you think your generation see versus what you thought or think my generation sees around that.
Before now, it was easier to see how money could get you to like the place you want, but it's the distribution of money, especially in this country right now, is so uneven that I think it has a hold on people, but not in like it's gonna bring them up, but it's something that they're chasing because they can only get a certain thing because if they have money, if that makes sense. It's like when you were younger, it was easier to picture yourself in like growing up and buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
But the furthest that people in my generation feel like they can go is just getting like an apartment to themselves because the price of everything has skyrocketed and they're not hiring people and the jobs we do have don't pay us enough. And especially after like the pandemic and stuff, like they realize that they don't have to pay people to do like the work or they don't need as many people to do the work they want done. So it's just really, it's like a standstill.
Yeah, so like they're frozen because of everything. All of the events came at a head, not only the pandemic, and then, change of administration, inflation, everything comes collided together. And now we're here where 20, 30 years ago, my parents buying a house that seemed achievable. It's like your daddy was talking on the last episode, like him growing up, it was like he thought, and I might be messing these words up. So you guys got to check out our previous episode to learn more about Nate's journey. But he was saying that he didn't think it was achievable because he didn't see it. But then he saw our grandparents' house, your grandparents' house, my parents' house. It was like, oh, Black people do live out here. They can buy a house. We can, so that seemed achievable. And I always saw that. I've been around family members that had owned houses since I was a little girl. So I knew that was achievable once you did certain things. And then now, I'm older and I was able to buy a house, 2 houses with you, saw that. But now your generation's like, I don't know if I'm going to afford a house, especially not in this region. It's very expensive in the DMV, but all around the country, everything skyrocketed.
Yeah, I think it's also like I could be doing the job you're doing now and not be able to afford the same thing because you have time to save for the house and through like previous years or whatever, but I wouldn't be able to keep that same amount of money now because
You wouldn't
things
be
are
able to
more
save it,
expensive.
you mean? Because
Yeah.
everything's expensive, yeah.
So I know a lot of people, like, I try my best to save money, but my I have like a lot of coworkers who like have a hard time because they have to pay for bills and stuff that I don't have to.
No, that's real. I mean, and then you add in there the whole faith part of it. It's hard to be faithful for some people when you just like you're constantly, it's hard to be like, oh, I can save, but every time I save a little bit, I got to spend it, right? Or so how is God really looking out for me? And God just wants us to be patient and humble with what we have and grateful. But sometimes I know when I was younger in my 20s, I was like, Lord, I mean, first of all, I was not as faithful, I was not as spiritual, as religious as I am now, didn't know the word like I do now. But even back then, it was just like, you was always seem like you're scraping. You're always trying to figure it out. And that's just young. You just learning.
Yeah, and I don't think people see the faith the same way as your generation does too. The institution of the church, because they're hateful and maybe I know God doesn't want people to be like that. And like, Jesus wasn't accepting like those hateful people and he was accepting like bottom of the barrel people, right? But the people who push faith are the ones who are really messing things up for people like me. There's not much of a trust in God because like the people who are the loudest about him are seemingly the most evil.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure we could go down that road and I can argue some things, but I can always what I was taught is men and women, so it's human race, going to be human race. They're going to be evil. They're going to have all the different emotions and do things, but they're not a true representation of God, right? They're
Yeah, no, I know, I understand that too. Yeah. It's just the people, it's the institution itself, I think that's really damaging, how God is supposed to be seen.
Yeah, and I've seen the numbers and the statistics and read a lot of articles around that where they're saying obviously the numbers in the religious institutions across the board, whether it's Christianity or Islam or all of them have gone down because people are now that everything's open through the internet and social media and people really seeing who these people are. And unfortunately there is some corrupt, there's like you said, there's evilness. And it's always been that way, in my opinion. It's just now that everybody sees it and it's thrown at you at a higher rate. And the volume is so high, you're like, okay. And then if you do even go to your own church, there's a certain thing called church hurt, where you actually go and you're hurt by your church because they've done something to you and it's hard to forgive them. But God tries to teach you, wants us to learn forgiveness, right? But that doesn't always come with reconciliation, which means like actually moving forward and trying to rebuild that relationship after somebody really hurts you. And people are like, no, I'll be good. When you can just serve God on your own, it's always great to have a church and be a part of a fellowship, but sometimes that's not the best way. And they have abused kids, they have abused money, they have abused power. And I mean, the list goes on. And that's hard for your generation to get past. Wow. And I'm sure that's why it's hard for the tithing to go because, like, where's my money going? Yeah. So,
Especially in like those big multi-million-dollar churches. I think when it's a smaller church, it's different, but when it's like a big church,
mega church.
yeah, one of those, it's like I know the money is going into the pastor's pocket and not going to help the people in the community.
Well, you're not completely know that. You assume.
I mean, they got big houses.
They got big houses, nice cars, go on great vacations, yachts, and all. So yes, yes, and but I would only argue in some of those churches, not all of them, and I'm sure it goes both ways. That those people have book deals and movie deals and stuff, so they get money off of that too. That's always their excuse, right? My money's not coming from the church; it's coming from the books or the movies or the conferences or speaking engagements. And presidents say the same thing, and it's like, yeah, but I can't believe that all your money's coming from there. But it's true, and that's why the churches that I've been a member of, I've actually said, I want to see your finances. I don't know if you knew that. And I've actually like I-5, Union, all those places. I'm like, because they're nonprofits. So they should be filing a 990, which means their information should be public. But even if it's not, I want to see your finances. How are you paying the pastor and his people? How many people you got on a team? I remember in some churches in the last 10, 20 years, I've literally went line by line. It's like, I want to see how your money's being spent. Because if you're not spending it like you say you are on a homeless or feeding people and people coming out of jail, whatever the situation may be, I don't want to be affiliated with somebody who's in the pulpit lying, saying they're doing one thing and they're doing something else. So it's all about that accountability, right? And I think I would challenge your generation to, it's time for y'all to, maybe not time now, but eventually have to challenge them and hold them accountable. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, like, even the Pope doesn't live an extravagant lifestyle, and he's, like,
Yeah.
the head of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And so, I know people have, like, an issue with Catholicism. I think everyone
Hmm.
has an issue with every religion, but
Yeah.
in regards to, like, the Pope, like, you don't see him, like, in a mega mansion. He's, like, the guy.
That's very true. Even the last one that just passed, he was in a wooden coffin, I think it was, and I might be wrong about that, so if you guys wanna correct me, but I know that his coffin wasn't made out of marble and diamonds and gold and stuff like that so many kings may have, but
And that's, like, one of God's chosen people, right? That's how
exactly,
that
yeah.
works.
Yeah.
So, I don't
But
know.
we're in America where money, power, control are the head of this nation, and unfortunately, it seeps in heavily into our religious institutions, no matter with Christianity or Muslim or whatever. So let's talk about social media culture and faith, about how scrolling influencers have shaped how we think about money and spirituality. So is it all hustle culture or is there spiritual lessons hidden in there? So I know you be scrolling, whether it's TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, other social media channels. What have you heard about? Like, what are they saying these days about money or religion or the both together?
With social media, obviously, everyone's algorithm is different. So I don't get a lot of hustle culture stuff because I don't believe in hustle culture. But from what I've seen of like local TikTok, which is like not fan people, it's for like streamers like Kai Cenat and whatever, people like them are like DDG. Their whole thing is, you in an impractical sense is that if you quit your job and you just like you focus, you do this and you post like 3 times a day or whatever, you're gonna get where you want to be. And there's this thing on Instagram where people do like it's called UGC, where it's like faceless content and they just like do brand deals all the time. But when you really look at it, those people aren't making money the way that they say they are. They'll be like, I'll give you a class. And they'll make their money from people buying into their class that teaches them how to get all these followers. Like, that's not how that works. And even with like Twitch streamers, like that's the big thing right now. Like, you're not going to get anywhere unless you have someone way bigger than you, like shout you out. So it's really just like, it's hopeless. I think doing social media and making content for money is not as like, I don't know, it's not as good as people think it is.
It's profitable.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's not
Hmm.
as profitable. So it's
Hmm.
about doing it because you like to do it and not because you want to get rich off of it.
Yeah, it needs to be a passion and it takes time, right? This is a part of the journey people don't see. They're like, they see the people that made millions of dollars, but those people usually, you look behind the scenes, they've been doing something similar or that for at least 10 years, 5 to 10 years, and maybe. Some of them are quick rich.
Yeah, like if you think about TikTokers like Charlie D'Amelio or something, she just posted a dance and she got popular and she became the most followed person on TikTok. So most of it is really luck. It's not like she was working. She was like a teenager when that happened. So if they were like on YouTube and they blew up, you could tell that they take their time because they've been posting for a long time. But on social media where the time is lower, like TikTok used to only be like 15 seconds, like time like the attention span is lower and it's easier for people to follow and then scroll by. And then big brands see the followers. People will probably not even paying attention to you. And they'll be like, you can promote my product and they'll pay you for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Brand ambassadors, promoters, and stuff. Okay. Well, let's go back to why you don't believe in hustle culture.
Because it seems like, in the sense of social media, it seems like a farce. It's more of just like you have to be at the right place at the right time. And the algorithm picks you up and takes you. It used to be something that you would work hard for, like with YouTube. There are some older YouTubers who are still going like 10, 15 years after they started because they worked. But with the newer ones that are like really popular, it's not like they're working as hard as the people used
Hmm.
to.
So that builds up kind of like a false, someone, I don't know if it's narrative or just false expectations. Because I hear a lot of people my age, but kids younger than you that are like, oh, my kid think they're going to just be the next big YouTuber or TikToker or whatever. And it's because there's been cases. I mean, I'm sure the percentage is probably still lower than what people expect, that they're just going to make all this millions of dollars because they post one or two or three or whatever amount of content, dancing, singing, whatever. I mean, I guess it's just the chances of getting seen on like a American Idol or something, right? You got to still, but you just takes away all the auditioning and stuff. You just go straight
Yeah.
to the user or to the
And
audience.
it's an
Mm.
oversaturated market as well because everyone thinks it's a get rich quick scheme. And it's not like that. If a new social media platform came out that was like going to be popular and you were to get on that as like one of the first people, then you would definitely blow up. But as the later you get into it, it's hard for someone to actually profit off of that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So taking it back to the money piece then and spirituality, I mean, what are you seeing on social media about just making money outside of the content based stuff? Is anybody talking about, is still people, let me go back to, are people still talking about you need to be a lawyer or a doctor back in the day or go to college or anything like that from what you see?
No, they're mostly saying college is like not useless, but going to college does not guarantee you getting a job anymore. Because getting a bachelor's degree is basically the same as it was of getting like a high school diploma years ago. So in order for you to be more marketable, you have to get a master's for people to like recognize you.
That's crazy. And then you get into all that debt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because not everybody can afford or have their parents pay for college, right? So that's not always the case. And then, I mean, so that's some faith in that, right? You got to have some kind of faith in either God or somebody because just getting a master's doesn't guarantee the job either.
No. And there's different subsets of social media too. Like there is like study places that only focuses on people studying for like college or whatever. And then from the hustle culture stuff that I've seen, it is really people just saying like, I made all this money and you can too if you buy
Oh,
this
my
admission to my
program.
class. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I have clients, unfortunately, have done that. They spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, or sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars on a program that they heard about because somebody's got a million scholars, followers, or maybe they got a couple thousand followers. Well, they got a lot of followers, so this must be really working, but that's not always the case, right? It's still that hard work behind it all. And like you said earlier, the passion, right? So God gives us a passion or a talent that we have to see through. And sometimes it's profitable. Sometimes you just volunteer and just helping people with that.
Yeah. And if people can see authenticity too. So if people don't see that you're like in it because you like it, they're not going to
Support.
follow you. Yeah. So if it's not something that you're like really about, then it's not something you should try for because you're not going to get anywhere with it.
Very good point. Very good point. And studies show younger generations prioritize financial independence over traditional financial structures. So, again, going back to this, what does faith play in this shift? So, are you focused on independence or just, being part of I mean, I was going to say the matrix and being part of something unreal or I don't know, like,
What do you mean by traditional financial structure?
so I think that's more of like going to college, getting a job, buying your house, those kind of things, where we're kind of going back to what we were saying in terms of, oh, well, let's prioritizing making content for social, or let's go on American Idol, or let's go on whatever show, this reality show. Those kind of things are not, they're becoming traditional because they've been around for years. I mean, Real World came out back in the 90s, right? Or early
You're
2000s? No,
asking me,
90s.
I don't know.
I know you don't know nothing about Real World, but those that know MTV Real World, I remember those days. I was like, man, shows, and like, what was the island show when they go out on the island?
Love Island?
No, not Love Island. That's the newer thing. I don't remember. It was something they go
Like
out and they get
Survival or something?
Survivor. Yeah,
That's still
Survivor.
on.
It's still on? Wow. That's forever ago. Well, those were like the original OG reality shows. So those becoming more traditional. But back now is the old school traditional financial structures, as I should say, where, you get a job out of college, or you get a job out of high school in a trade, or you just come, or you don't finish high school and you just go work wherever and you make your money and you save if you can, or you just living day by day or paycheck by paycheck. Now people are really trying to make the hundreds and millions of dollars. When I was growing up, I wasn't around a lot of people, I'm sure, that made six figures, and it's regional and there's a lot of things that go factor into that. But you got to have a lot of faith to just be able to make that shift into wherever way you're trying to be independent financially.
But is that not the same thing then? If you're younger, you're trying to make money because you have to be independent. Like, I don't think financial independence has changed. I think everyone wants that, especially because everyone has access to it now. Because in the past, women couldn't even like open their own credit card. Everyone wants money, because at the end of the day, I don't care about money, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to work because I need money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like money's important. We all realize that money's important, whether we like it or not. And so I think that hasn't changed.
You're right. It hasn't. Other than now, I think, in my opinion, there's more entitlement and privilege than there was. But it goes to back what you said. Women and people of color couldn't do certain things now. And so that's why the entitlement and privilege wasn't there for those communities. And now they are, because they are able to do that. And so now we're able to rear and raise children and communities of people that, have a little more of a buffer from their families that they didn't have before. So financial independence is not always the priority to some people. If you come from a millionaire parents and they're like, we got everything covered, just go do you, boo, then you're not really thinking about financial independence, because you think you quote unquote are financially independent because your parents are, but really you're not. And I remember always hearing like T.I. every time he talked about his kids, and I'm like, your kids got it made. He's like, no, I got it made. My kids got to go out here and work because this is my money. You ever felt that way about your parents?
Yes. Yes. In fact. Mm-hmm.
It's not your money, it's our money, but you benefit from that money. And I'm sure your daddy makes that pretty clear, right?
Yes.
Yes, he does, unfortunately. All right, I'll say fortunately. I want to say unfortunately. All right. So each generation has their own way of looking at faith and money. But if you strip it down, the core principles are generosity, purpose, stewardship. They still hit home, right? I mean, there's still the being generous, being kind, having a purpose, passion, and then stewardship, being a good steward of your money, managing your money appropriately, responsibility. I mean, right? I think you were taught all of those.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Speak more on that in your
It
final
made me a
thoughts.
little bit fearful, though. I used to be very scared of spending money, especially in college. Like, my first year, I would call you basically crying because I spent money at the grocery store.
Or you weren't used to it, because I always did it. I mean, you went with me a
Yeah,
lot of
but
the times, most of the
it's
times.
the perception of I didn't think things were that expensive.
Mm.
So when I first spent $60 at the grocery store, I was like, that is not what I thought it was. Even though you used to take me like counting the money, at
The grocery
the
store, the
commissary, that
commissary.
would be like 100 and something dollars, but that's a family of three, But then half of that is what I'm just spending on food, and I wouldn't have like snacks and stuff. But as I've gotten older, I get more comfortable with spending money
Yeah.
because I spent like $60 on snacks the other day. So,
On just snacks.
I wouldn't, not just snacks, but mostly
Yeah.
snacks because I was hungry and I shopped hungry, which I do
Yeah.
recommend.
I don't agree with that. Now say again what you were saying about the commissary though. We used to go into counting.
Yeah, you would give me a little notepad and make me keep track of how much money you were spending on each thing. And then you would get me like a baby bottle pop at the end.
Yeah, something like if you were within $1 or $5 of the amount. Because not only from the math perspective, but also I wanted you to know how much you were spending or how much I was spending on groceries. But it always hits differently when you're using your own money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always does. That's why I know growing up, I would always, have my parents pay for stuff. And even if I had money, I'd try, even though most time I had to, if I had my own money, I would have to. But it's just different when you use your own money. Be like, no, you can cover it, even though I have my own money, because I just didn't want to spend my own money.
And it's also because I don't have the same amount of money though. And so I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I feel like I was a kid once and I was saying like $10 to a kid is like $100, but to an adult, it's nothing. That's pretty profound as a child.
It is profound.
Yeah. And I think that is like, especially when my first year of college, I didn't have a job when I was a freshman. And so the money was just money I had saved from the summer. So it was just watching the number going down, knowing that it's not going to go back up. But now, because I have a job that pays a little bit more than my other jobs do, when I spend money, I know, like I said earlier, I know the money's going to come back to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When I've had jobs that pay less, I was like freaking out because I would only get paid like $100 every 2 weeks, which is not anything. But now I get a little bit more. So when I spend money, I'm like, this is going to hurt for like right now. But I know in a week or so, it's going to be right there. And I never spend money that I have like saved up or anything either.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing, I guess, that I've been taught. Like I have money split up for what I know I'm going to spend.
Mm-hmm. Well, good job. I know that fear sucked in the beginning, but you get to live with it. It's kind of like that. It's just helping you build up your muscle when you're spending, and that you know that you're not going to just spend everything. I think it's good to have a little bit of, I know we don't want you to have full on anxiety or panic attacks about spending your money, but I think a little bit of fear goes a little bit away to help you, remind you, to keep you disciplined. I would think it's more about the discipline than even the fear. It becomes and helps you be self-control. So, all right. Well, this was a great conversation, my dear Alana Cook, my daughter. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I have a lot of thoughts, but
Yes, you do. But go ahead.
when you were saying with the discipline, though, I think when I first started making a little bit more money, I would budget every month. But when you get into like the practice of it, I don't really budget as harshly anymore. I used to, like I said earlier, I spend money based on vibes because I have my money split out. I have money, I like K-pop, which could be seen in the vacuum.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to spend money on it, so I put money aside for it.
So you save for it. Yeah. So that's self-control. That's discipline. Yeah.
But I know, like, I'll put that aside, but for my bigger goals, I'll put $100 towards like a goal
Mm-hmm.
with every paycheck. But I'm not like for all the other pots, I'm like, maybe I'm just going to add like $25,
Yeah.
maybe 50, but I'm not so strict on how I spend my money now because I've like
Because you've
trained myself.
saved, you train. So yeah. And that's what comes with being very strict in the beginning and then training yourself. And then when you make those decisions, you got it covered, right? And I taught you that earlier. Not a lot. And that's what we're trying to teach our clients that don't know that. When they come to us and they got a lot of debt, they're not saving. They're able to learn exactly those kind of techniques that you're saying right there. So then when it comes to buying an album or a bike or whatever it may be on your list, you've already saved for it and planned for it, but you don't have to be as strict with everything else. So great job with that. Well, thank you for your time today, everyone, as well. Thank you for joining us. I would add an action step for today is to have a faith and finance discussion with someone from another generation and share insights, because I know my daughter and I and many youngins, as I call them out there, and I love to go to a conference or an event with the people under 18 or the young adults 18 to 25 or around that age and have real conversations because they're going through and they need us. So we're here as old heads, us 40 plus year old Generation Xers, or if you're a baby boomer or wherever you're at in the generational scale, definitely reach out to the young people and train them up and give them good advice. So thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. A big thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you found today's chat about the intersection of religion and money insightful. We would love to hear your feedback. Hit that subscribe button or follow the podcast. And please feel free to leave us a review. For the latest Yahweh's Money content, visit us at crusaders4change.org or find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Until next time, stay financially fit and spiritually inspired. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way.